Thank you for joining me this evening. Through more than 16 months of bargaining, a court win that found the BC government negotiated in bad faith, and now rotating strikes in a partial lockout. BC teachers, our proud BCTF members, have shown an unwavering commitment to their students, their schools, and to public education in British Columbia. British Columbians should be very proud of their teachers. They are resilient, creative, caring, and determined to make every single child count. They have stood up to a government that has violated their constitutional rights twice. They advocate every single day for their students and the need to get them more support. Teachers have shown incredible strength during the rotating strikes and the government's chaotic lockout. And now more than ever, parents understand that this fight is about quality education for our students and fairness for teachers. I want to thank parents for their support and encourage everyone who cares about public education to contact their local MLAs and demand change from this government. There's no reason, except for the lack of political will, why a province as rich as British Columbia should be funding education $1,000 below the national average, the second worst record of all Canadian provinces. It's time to change that. It's time to bring BC to at least the national average, if not better, on per student funding. That's one of the things that teachers are taking a stand for. And tonight, they took that stand with their votes. A total of 28,809 teachers voted yes in this week's province-wide vote. In all, 33,387 teachers cast ballots, of whom 86% voted yes. This is one of the highest turnouts we've ever had in BCTF history. Thank you, members, for standing up, standing strong, and in solidarity and in unity. With this vote, BC teachers have sent a very strong message to Christy Clark and her government. It's time to negotiate in good faith and put new funding on the table and to reach a fair deal with teachers that also provides better supports for our students. Teachers are prepared to fully withdraw services and go on a full-scale strike, but that decision has not been made yet. A decision that we never take lightly. We will make that decision soon after further discussion. In the meantime, rotating strikes will continue tomorrow in 22 school districts and across the rest of the province on Thursday and Friday. Even if we make the decision to escalate, we will provide 3 days working notice. That means there are several days left before any moving to the next stage. That gives both sides a small and important window to reassess their proposals, to reach a settlement, avoid a possible full-scale strike, and end the government's lockout. It can be done. We have the will, but does government? We are ready to make moves and get down to hard bargaining, but teachers need to see some good faith from Christy Clark. This government still has a proposal on the table that would wipe out class size and class composition guarantees that the BC Supreme Court has twice ruled were illegally stripped from our collective agreements. The government is also entrenched on a salary demand that would see teachers effectively take 2 more years of zero, which would make it 4 in a row. We see that as unfair and unreasonable. We need a fair deal, but we also need better working and learning conditions. Teachers throughout the province are doing their utmost best in an underfunded and under-resourced system to teach their students. Just today, 2 teachers have sent me examples of the kind of classes that our teachers are working hard to support. An Okanagan teacher told me she's got 30 students in a grade 6 and 7 class. 5 of those kids have individual education plans with learning challenges ranging from autism to obsessive compulsive disorder to severe behavioral disorders. The teacher is sure that there are more of her students that need diagnostic assessments, but they've never received them due to long waiting lists and a lack of specialist teachers. These students are now below grade level because they've not received the extra support they require and that they deserve. This teacher is only receiving minimal and intermittent help from learning specialist teachers. This needs to change. The second teacher is from Vancouver. She's got a class of 25 students, and 9 of her students have a designated special need. 4 students are in foster care. 5 of these children have fetal alcohol syndrome. 2 students have autism, and 3 are waiting for diagnostic assessments. Of the 25 students, 7 are also learning English. The teachers tell me that every single one of these kids is smart, kind, and ready to learn, but they're not getting the support, the one-on-one time that they need. Those kids deserve so much more. All our kids deserve more. These are the conditions that many teachers are facing, and it's a direct result of the government's underfunding and illegal stripping of our collective agreement back in 2002. These teachers work hard every single day to support these kids and give them the best education possible. Again, to our members, thank you for the amazing work that you do every day in our classrooms. But Christy Clark and the BC government are not supporting these children or their teachers. Instead of stepping up and holding themselves accountable for violating the Canadian Charter rights, they point fingers and they deny the problem. Teachers are doing the best they can, but the cuts are going too deep, and it's time to stop the cuts. Parents are fundraising for the basics. Students are losing out. That must change. And it's time for Christy Clark to keep some promises. Put families first and get stability in our schools. Put the funding that's needed for our students. We can avoid a full-scale strike and end the government's disruptive lockout if this government comes to the table with a more open mind and a commitment to reinvest into public education. Let's negotiate a fair deal for teachers and, most importantly, better supports for our students. Thank you.
Mr. Iker, can you explain the 7 days when you said it's still going to be, if this does escalate, it would be 7 days. Can you kind of walk us through that timeline again?
Well, when we look at what date is today, today's Tuesday, before we move to any next stage of action, which we consider a stage 3, we have to give 72 hours notice, working days notice. And we've got the weekend, and we're ready to bargain. And so what we want to be able to do is get down to it and get a deal as soon as we can, and hopefully get a deal in time to avert any movement to another stage of action.
So just to clarify, Jim, what is the earliest date that you would have a full walkout? So we've heard June 16th, the Monday, is that right?
Well, the earliest time in terms of the timelines and giving basically 3 full days notice would probably see it as of the 16th or the 17th of June, yes.
What do you say to parents who are going to hear this and go, another walkout, schools are closed, my kids can't afford to miss any more school?
Well, that's why, we've appreciated our parents' support, and we've also appreciated the student support that we've been receiving. And we want this deal to be done. And we're encouraging our parents to talk to their MLAs and talk to their trustees about doing what's right. And what's right is bring the funding to the table. Let's negotiate in good faith, and let's get that deal done now. We want the deal by the end of June, for sure, but we want that deal earlier, and let's make it happen.
Jim, there will be a hearing at LRB tomorrow to put report cards and marking exams as essential service tomorrow. Is that right?
I believe tomorrow is I'm not sure if it's a case managed meeting or whether there's a hearing, actually. I'm not quite sure of that timeline.
Mm-hmm. But,
Yeah.
but do you expect that government will put report card and marking exam as essential service though?
Well, they've put an application into the Labor Relations Board to make the issue of grades 10 to 12 exams and the marking of them as an essential service. So we'll be in discussions with them, and we'll be dealing with that at the Labor Relations Board.
But how do you look at this move, like making that as essential service?
Well, I mean, it's interesting on one hand. I mean, we went to the Labor Relations Board because we are under essential services, and the employer was actually disappointed that we did go to the Labor Relations Board. They didn't want to go through essential services, and they basically said, you know, we have the right to strike. And now they're going to essential services and using essential services as a way to either limit the right to strike, and then of course we know government has this partial and full lockout happening, which is causing a lot of chaos and confusion there.
Is it still hopeful to get the deal done before maybe next Monday or Tuesday?
You know, we sure would like to have a deal done before then. Absolutely.
Jim, in addition to writing letters to MLAs, what would you ask the rest of the labor movement, parents, communities that obviously support, because I've heard lots of horns honking on your picket line.
Yes, there has
What
been.
would you ask them to do to put more pressure on Christy Clark, who seems to have an agenda to block public education? I'm just wondering what you would ask them.
Well, you know, I believe talking to also their friends and friends of friends in terms of passing the message along. I think that you know through emails, actual phone calls, if possible, and helping in every way. Of course, supporting us on picket lines is very important. You know, the honking that our members have been receiving in terms of when we are on the streets picketing for a fair deal for teachers and better supports for our students has been overwhelming and uplifting. But talking to MLAs and talking to trustees about the importance of getting a fair deal done at the table. But we all know that for any deal to happen, it requires funding. That's what happened in 2006. Government was willing to provide the funding to get the deal done, something they haven't done this time around. We know with the truckers' strike, they put in extra funding to get that deal done. I think Christy Clark said it's better to get a deal than fight, so we want a deal. Let's end the fight. And ultimately, we want to develop a relationship with this government. And we've been trying to get a meeting with Christy Clark, and she's declined.
Do you think the teachers will be legislated back to work?
Well, we're hoping that we won't be legislated back to work. That's something that government has done to bail themselves out in the past. I know there's been remarks saying that there was not going to be legislation. And so what we want is the funding to get a negotiated deal at the bargaining table that's fair deal for teachers, and like I said, better supports for students, smaller class sizes, class composition guarantees, and minimum levels of specialist teachers so that we can give that so important one-on-one attention. And you do that in a smaller class and with the help of specialist teachers that can go and work one-on-one with our kids.
Were you going to give
clarify a timeline here? If you were to give, if Monday would be the earliest you would go out on a full walkout, that would mean you'd have to give 72-hour notice tomorrow. Is that right? So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, skip the weekend, Monday?
Wednesday, Thursday. If we were to move to a full scale, then we would have to give notice tomorrow, and depending on when that notice was given.
If it was tomorrow, then I mean, are you prepared to do that?
Well, we're going to
You
have.
mentioned that Monday could be the earliest.
Well, when we were looking at the timelines, we're going to be doing further discussion on this, and we'll be making a decision. And when we make the decision, we'll announce that decision.
But are you you prepared to do that if you have to do it tomorrow?
If we have to make the decision tomorrow, then we'll decide what the next steps are. Absolutely. But we want to get this deal done. That's what's important. For us, it's not about moving to another stage. It's never been about moving to another stage of action. It's always about trying to put pressure on the government, putting as minimal pressure on our parents and students. That's why we went the different levels of action that we have. And so far, this government has come to the table empty-handed. It's time to change that.
Jim, in the court case, the judge found, through these emails presented at the case, that the government was trying to provoke teachers into a general strike. Can you tell me what's different about this year round? I mean, what are we seeing differently from the government now in terms of where you guys are at and where the government wants to have you at?
Well, when you look at some of the things they've done and some of the antics that they've done in the last few months, and the fact that we've been negotiating for 16 months, you can argue that maybe some things haven't changed. You know, this government has a history of violating the Constitution, have a history of bad faith, have a history of legislating collective agreements rather than actually coming to the table in good faith, bringing the funding necessary. But you have to remain hopeful. You got to remain hopeful that government has learned from the past mistakes they've made, and so far we actually haven't seen that faith in terms of coming to the table to resolve the important issues, in particular on class size, class composition, and specialist levels, or minimum levels of specialist teachers. So you have to hope.
Jim, how many teachers do you have in your union again?
Well, you know, we say 41,000 members. I'm not sure of the exact count, but that's one of the numbers that we use. Yeah.
Is it possible that some schools will be canceled because of the full-scale strike?
Well, we're not on full-scale strike right now.
If it happens.
I think what we need to concentrate on is we want a deal definitely by the end of June. And we want a deal earlier than that. And we get that deal, there will be no more job action, there will be no more lockouts, and we can go into the summer knowing we've got some certainty for September for our students and for our teachers. And that's what's important. That's what we need to concentrate on, not about whether something may happen in the summer, because we want it to happen now with a deal at the table.
But would there be a possibility?
Well, that would be a possibility, but we want a deal. We need government to make a commitment to bring the funding to the bargaining table so we can get that deal. Get that deal now, in the next few days. And then we can celebrate that, and we don't have to think about what's going to happen in the summer, and we know that September, we can see smaller class sizes for kids. We can see the support, the extra support that they need. We can see minimum levels. We'll have teacher librarians back in Coquitlam and elsewhere. We'll have teacher counselors that can actually work with students and talk to them about their issues. Dealing with mental health. We know mental health is a huge issue in British Columbia, across Canada. You need teacher counselors in our schools to deal with that. Learning assistance teachers and special education resource teachers. Teachers that work on the ground that can help our students.
Sorry,
Yes.
do you mind just clarifying some numbers? So how many people were eligible to vote?
Well, actually, we're not sure about the actual number of how many are eligible because we have teachers who are on leave
Okay.
and that. But I think what's really important in terms of the numbers that I used is that 33,387 teachers cast ballots. It's probably over 80% of our membership. And 28,809 voted yes.
Were there any
86%.
exceptions or spoiled ballots?
No, we just had the yes and no. Yeah.
Jim,
It's
sorry
the commitment of our members, the solidarity of our members, the involvement of our members in terms of getting a fair deal for teachers and better supports for our students was critical in this huge turnout.
Jim, sorry to focus only on the day, but parents are going to want to know what to expect. So just to clarify, because you said it's possible 16th or 17th, but that would mean you would have to give notice tomorrow or the next day, which seems to contradict you saying that you still want to negotiate a deal. How can you do both?
We're at bargaining tables. Right now, we're on rotating strikes. We're at the bargaining table.
So when will
And
you guys make
so we
a
can-
decision on when and if you're going to give notice for a full-scale strike?
We will be having those discussions, and when we make a decision, you will know about it. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for being here.